My stepmother stole my entire $100,000 inheritance to pay for her daughter's wedding. Now I'm a billionaire and she's begging me to hire her bankrupt princess. I'd love for you to be part of this family. Subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. I promise your comment doesn't go unseen. I was standing in my father's study when I found the empty safe. My hands trembled as I stared at the velvet interior where $100,000 should have been. Money my late mother had left specifically for my college education. The metallic smell of the safe mixed with my father's cologne still lingering in the room, even though he'd been gone for 3 months. My stepmother Diane's voice echoed from downstairs, high-pitched and excited, talking about centerpieces and champagne fountains. I pressed my palm against the cool metal, my stomach dropping like I'd been pushed off a cliff. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when I'd already been accepted to MIT with a partial scholarship that required me to cover the remaining $50,000 per year. My father had promised me that money would be there, had shown me the safe combination on his deathbed, his weak fingers gripping mine. "Linda, baby girl, your mama made sure you'd never have to struggle like we did," he'd whispered, his voice barely audible over the hospital machines. I'd believed him. I'd trusted that even with Diane in the picture for the last 5 years, my inheritance was sacred. Untouchable. I was wrong. The combination had been changed. And downstairs, my stepsister Brittany was squealing about her upcoming wedding to some investment banker she'd known for 6 months. A wedding that, according to the magazine on the coffee table, cost exactly $100,000. I descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate, my heart pounding against my ribs like it wanted to escape my chest. Diane sat at the dining table with Brittany, surrounded by fabric swatches in various shades of blush pink and ivory. Wedding catalogs were scattered across the mahogany surface my mother had picked out 15 years ago. "Where's my inheritance money?" I asked, my voice cutting through their chatter like a knife. The room went silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock. Diane looked up, her cosmetically enhanced face arranging itself into an expression of confusion so fake it made my skin crawl. "Sweetheart, I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her French-tipped nails tapping against a champagne flute. "The safe. It's empty." The combination was changed. Brittany rolled her eyes, her blonde extensions swishing as she turned to face me. "God, Linda. Everything isn't about you. Some of us have actual important life events happening." My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. That money was from my mother. For my education. Daddy showed me where it was. Diane sighed dramatically, setting down her glass with a delicate clink. "Your father and I had an understanding before he passed. As his wife, his assets became our shared resources. Brittany's wedding is an investment in her future, just like college would be for you. Besides, there are student loans for people in your situation." "My situation?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "You mean being robbed?" "Watch your tone," Diane snapped, her mask slipping slightly. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in my bedroom, the smallest room in the house, the one Diane had moved me to after she redecorated, to make the house feel more cohesive, and pulled out my laptop. The blue light illuminated my face as I searched through my father's email account. He'd given me the password years ago before Diane, when it was just us figuring out life after Mama died. What I found made my blood run cold. There were emails between Diane and her sister, dated 2 months before my father's death. "Marcus is getting weaker," Diane had written. "I've already started transferring what I can. The life insurance will cover the house, but Brittany's wedding needs to be perfect. That college fund is just sitting there and Linda can get scholarships. She's smart enough." Her sister had responded, "What about the will?" "He never updated it after we married. Everything goes through me as the spouse." The girl doesn't have legal standing on the account since it was moved to our joint holdings last year. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My father had been manipulated while dying, probably medicated and confused into consolidating accounts. I screenshotted everything, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the laptop. I was 18 years old, 3 months from high school graduation, and I'd just discovered that the woman my father married had systematically planned to steal my future. The worst part, it was technically legal. As his surviving spouse, Diane had rights to assets that superseded a verbal promise to a daughter. The legal aid attorney's office smelled like old coffee and disappointment. Ms. Washington, a tired-looking black woman in her 50s, reviewed my screenshots with increasing dismay. Her desk was cluttered with case files, and a dying plant sat on the windowsill behind her. "I'm sorry, Linda," she said finally, removing her reading glasses. "Based on what you've shown me, your stepmother had legal authority to access those funds. Your father should have had a separate trust established for your inheritance, but he didn't. Without documentation proving your mother's explicit wishes regarding that specific money, and with the accounts merged into joint holdings before his death, there's no legal recourse." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, harsh and unforgiving. "So she just gets away with it? She planned this. I have emails proving she manipulated him while he was dying." Ms. Washington's expression softened with sympathy. "Morally reprehensible isn't the same as illegal. The emails show intent, but they also show she stayed within legal boundaries. She was his wife. The law protected her access to marital assets. That's insane. That's reality. I wish I could help you more, but taking this to court would cost more money than you have and you'd likely lose. My advice: apply for every scholarship you can find. Take out loans. Document everything in case she tries something else. And Linda," she leaned forward, her eyes serious, "get out of that house as soon as you can. Women like Diane don't stop at stealing money. They need to control the narrative." Brittany's wedding was everything she'd dreamed of, funded by my stolen future. The venue was Rosewood Estate, a historic mansion with marble columns and crystal chandeliers that cast rainbow prisms across the walls. Each centerpiece held roses that cost more than my monthly food budget. I'd been forced to attend, threatened by Diane that refusing would prove I was bitter and ungrateful after everything they'd done for me. I wore a simple black dress, the one my mother had bought me for father's funeral, now slightly too tight, and watched as Brittany floated down the aisle in a custom Vera Wang gown. The fabric shimmered like liquid diamonds under the afternoon sun streaming through stained glass windows. "Isn't it beautiful?" Diane whispered to guests nearby, dabbing fake tears with a monogrammed handkerchief. "We wanted to give our princess the perfect day. Our princess. Not our girls. Never me." During the reception, I stood near the chocolate fountain, watching wealthy guests in designer clothes laugh and dance. A woman approached me, elegant and sharp-eyed, wearing a navy suit that screamed corporate power. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," she observed, her tone amused rather than judgmental. "That obvious? I'm Simone Green. I run a tech incubator in Atlanta. And you look like someone with a story." I don't know what possessed me. Maybe it was the anger I'd been swallowing for months. Maybe it was Ms. Washington's words about documenting everything. But I told her. Everything. The inheritance, the emails, the legal dead end, my MIT acceptance I'd have to decline. Simone listened without interrupting, her dark eyes sharp and assessing. When I finished, she pulled out a business card from her clutch, the paper thick and expensive between my fingers. "I run a program for young people with potential who've been dealt a bad hand," she said, her voice low enough that nearby guests couldn't hear over the DJ's bass. We provide housing, mentorship, and seed money for business ventures. No college degree required, just hustle and intelligence. You've got both if you figured out what your stepmother did and how to prove it, even if you can't prosecute. My throat tightened. Why would you help me? You don't know me. Because 15 years ago I was you. Different details, same story. My stepfather stole my inheritance and kicked me out at 18. I slept in my car for 3 months while working at McDonald's and teaching myself to code at the public library. Now I'm worth $20 million, and I make it my mission to help young black women who remind me of who I was. He pressed the card into my palm. Think about it. The program starts in 6 weeks. We're in Atlanta, so you'd have to relocate, but we cover everything. Apartment, food, technology, business mentorship. You'd be working on building something of your own while taking online courses if you still want that degree eventually. I stared at the card, my heart racing. What's the catch? You have to want it badly enough to leave everything behind, including revenge fantasies. This isn't about getting even, it's about getting ahead. I looked across the reception at Diane, who was posing for photos with Brittany, both of them glowing with satisfaction. I left 3 weeks after graduation with 2 suitcases and a bus ticket to Atlanta. I didn't say goodbye to Diane or Brittany. I left a note on the kitchen counter that read simply, "I'm not coming back. Don't contact me." The bus ride took 11 hours and I spent most of it staring out the window, watching North Carolina blur into South Carolina, blur into Georgia, each mile putting distance between me and the life that had tried to suffocate me. Simone's program was housed in a renovated warehouse in the old Fourth Ward, all exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. My apartment was small but mine. Really mine, no Diane to move me to smaller rooms or criticize how I decorated. There were 12 other young women in the program, all with stories that echoed pieces of my own. Betrayed by family. Failed by systems. Determined to prove everyone wrong. We're going to teach you to build technology solutions for real problems, Simone explained during orientation, her presence commanding the room. But more importantly, we're going to teach you to see opportunities where other people see obstacles. Your stepmother saw your inheritance as an opportunity. Now you're going to learn to see the entire world that way, except we're going to do it ethically. The first project was simple. Identify a problem in your own life and create a solution. While other participants built apps for budgeting or networking, I became obsessed with a different question. How many other people had been legally robbed by family members who manipulated estate planning? How many young people had lost educational opportunities to step-parents, relatives, or guardians who exploited legal gray areas? I spent 6 months researching, barely sleeping, consuming legal documents like they were novels. I interviewed estate planning attorneys, victims of inheritance theft, and financial advisors. The problem was massive and underserved. Existing solutions were expensive, required lawyers most people couldn't afford, and came too late, after the theft had already occurred. I built the first prototype in my tiny apartment at 3 a.m, fueled by cheap coffee and righteous anger. InheritGuard, an AI-powered platform that analyzed estate planning documents, flagged potential vulnerabilities, and provided affordable legal templates for protecting assets. It sent alerts when accounts were being consolidated or moved. It connected users with pro bono attorneys, created paper trails that made manipulation harder to hide. "This is brilliant," Simone said when I demonstrated it, her eyes gleaming with the recognition of something special. "You've turned your trauma into a market solution. Do you know how many families this could help?" We launched a beta version 6 months later, targeting it to communities most vulnerable to inheritance exploitation. The response was overwhelming. Within 3 months we had 50,000 users. Within 6 months, 200,000. Stories poured in from people who'd caught embezzlement attempts, who'd protected aging parents from predatory relatives, who'd secured their children's futures. Major investors started calling. We raised $5 million in series of funding when I was 19 years old. I was the face of the company, the founder who'd been victimized and turned pain into purpose. Forbes called me the youngest Black female tech founder to watch. By 23, InheritGuard had been acquired by a major fintech company for $800 million. My personal stake, $420 million. I didn't stop there. I used that money to start Generations Capital, a venture firm specifically funding companies founded by people from marginalized backgrounds solving problems born from personal experience. We invested in everything from apps helping formerly incarcerated people find housing to platforms connecting aging adults with trustworthy caregivers. By 25, my net worth crossed $1 billion. The media loved the story. Orphaned daughter, stolen inheritance, self-made billionaire. I did TED Talks. I appeared on magazine covers. I bought a penthouse in Atlanta's Buckhead neighborhood with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. But I never forgot the smell of my father's study or the sound of Diane's fake sympathy. I thought about it every time I signed a deal or launched a new venture. Not because I was bitter. Simone had been right about leaving revenge behind, but because it reminded me why I'd built something that mattered. Then my assistant walked into my office on a Tuesday afternoon, her expression uncertain. "There's someone here to see you without an appointment," Naomi said, her tablet clutched against her chest. "She says she's family." A Diane Mitchell? The name hit me like a physical blow. 5 years. 5 years of silence, of building a life she had no part in. And now she was here. Diane looked older. The expensive procedures couldn't quite hide the stress lines around her eyes or the tightness around her mouth. She wore a designer suit that had seen better days, slightly outdated and cut, and her signature French manicure was chipped on 2 fingers. I noticed these details with the cold assessment I'd learned in boardrooms. "Linda, sweetheart, look at you," she exclaimed, her voice hitting that same fake sweet register I remembered. She moved to hug me, but I stepped back, my hand up. "Miss Mitchell, why are you here?" The formal address made her flinch, but she recovered quickly. "I can't visit my stepdaughter. I've been following your success. I'm so proud of what you've accomplished. Cut the performance. You have 30 seconds before security escorts you out." Her mask cracked slightly, desperation bleeding through. "Fine. I need your help. Brittany's husband left her. The divorce was brutal. Turns out he'd been hiding debts. She lost everything. The house, the cars, her lifestyle. She has an MBA from Emory, excellent credentials, and she needs a fresh start. I was hoping you might have a position at one of your companies. Entry-level is fine. She's willing to work her way up." The absolute audacity of it stole my breath. "You want me to hire Brittany? The woman whose wedding you funded with my stolen inheritance? That's ancient history, Linda. You clearly didn't need that money. Look at this office. You're a billionaire. You won. Can't you be gracious in victory?" The corporate speak manipulation was almost impressive. I sat down behind my desk, a custom piece made from reclaimed wood that cost more than Diane's current car, based on what I'd seen in the parking garage security footage. Old habits from survival made me check everything. "Let me make sure I understand," I said, my voice perfectly calm, every word deliberate. "You stole $100,000 that my deceased mother left for my education. You manipulated my dying father into restructuring accounts so you could legally access those funds. You spent that money on a wedding for your daughter. A wedding that I was forced to attend while watching my MIT acceptance slip away. You never apologized. You never acknowledged the harm. You made me homeless at 18. And now, because your daughter's marriage failed and she's facing the consequences of her own choices, You want me to employ her? Do I have that right? Diane's face reddened. You're being melodramatic. We gave you a home after your mother died. Fed you, clothed you, using my father's money. The money my mother earned as a nurse working double shifts. That's not how marriage works, Linda. When two people wed, they share assets. It's legal. You're right. It was legal. Just like it's legal for me to refuse to hire someone who benefited from theft. Just like it's legal for me to have security remove you from my building. I pressed the intercom. Naomi, please have security come to my office. Diane's composure shattered completely. Please. Linda, please. Brittany is living in my apartment. I'm working part-time at Nordstrom at 54 years old because my retirement savings are gone. We need this. You have so much. Stop. The word cracked through the office like a whip. I stood up, my hands flat on the desk, and finally let years of controlled rage surface. You want to talk about need? Let me tell you about need, Diane. I needed a mother after mine died, and instead I got you. A woman who saw me as an obstacle to your daughter's comfort. I needed my inheritance for education, and you stole it while my father was too weak from cancer to stop you. I needed a home after graduation, and you made it clear I was unwelcome the moment I couldn't be used for your image of a blended family. I needed support, guidance, protection, all the things step-parents are supposed to provide. And instead you taught me that family means nothing when money's involved. My voice rose, years of professional composure burning away. So you know what I did? I got on a bus with $200 to my name. I slept on a twin mattress in a warehouse apartment. I taught myself business while working 18-hour days. I built something from nothing while you were spending my mother's money on ice sculptures and designer dresses. Every single thing I have, I earned despite you, not because of you. And now you want me to hand your daughter a job? To reward her for being raised by someone who taught her that other people's pain is acceptable collateral damage for her comfort. Diane's eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time, born from fear rather than manipulation. We're family. No. We're not. Family doesn't steal from children. You're just a woman who married my father. Security arrived, two professionals in dark suits who'd escorted plenty of unwanted visitors from my building. Diane left without further protest, her shoulders hunched in defeat that would have satisfied me once. Now it just felt empty. After she was gone, I sat in my office as sunset painted Atlanta's skyline in shades of orange and purple. My phone buzzed. Simone calling. Heard you had an interesting visitor, she said when I answered. News traveled fast in our network. Diane came looking for a handout through employment. How do you feel? It was the question a mentor asked, not a business partner. Honestly, I thought I'd feel triumphant. That I just feel tired. And grateful. Grateful. That I didn't become her. That I took the anger and built something that helps people instead of hurts them. Inherit Guard has now protected over 2 million families from what happened to me. That matters more than revenge ever could. There was pride in Simone's voice. That's growth, Linda. That's why you're going to keep succeeding. After we hung up, I looked at the photo on my desk. Me at 18 with Simone the day I joined her program. Both of us smiling at a future we had to fight for. I'd been terrified then, homeless and angry, and certain the world was designed to crush people like me. Now I employed 3,000 people, invested in hundreds of founders, and spent my weekends mentoring young women in programs like the one that saved me. Diane's visit had been a test I hadn't expected, and I'd passed by refusing to let her turn me bitter. Tomorrow I'd announce a new scholarship fund. $100,000 annually for young people who'd lost educational opportunities to inheritance theft. Named after my mother. Full circle but better.